this is a text-to-speech presentation. The original presentation was in Hungarian language. The text-to-speech software was used from translator.com. Welcome everybody. As Zoltan mentioned, we are partners of T-Logic for a long time now, but this is the first occasion that we participate at the Partner Day as presenters. So I would like to present myself in a little bit more detail, because I see that the participants know each other much better. My name is Tamás Skoda. I am the head of one of the development departments at APEH, the Hungarian Tax Office. Of course we are continuously changing. Right now we have 5 development departments. There were times when we had 1, now we have 5. Unfortunately I missed the registration, so I did not collect the tax identification numbers. I'll do it in the break. What would I like to emphasize in my presentation? Obviously Shador can explain better than me how TMON operates. I would like to approach it from a user perspective, from a business logic perspective, and explain on what kind of business logic we have built this concept and way of thinking. I'd like to start with MQ series, since this 10-year-long relationship with T-Logic is basically related to MQ series, and I would start with this, because this is one of the elements we have built on TMON. In the second part, I would talk about how communication is solved in MQS and how it is done with the internal application, how we connected the business logic and the data communication using TMON, and obviously I would talk about where we are currently in the pilot, and what are our objectives regarding TMON. I like this figure. We will not go into details. I think I can't tell much new about how an MQ series architecture looks like. Obviously there is a central zone protected by firewalls. This isn't new either. I suppose it's similar elsewhere too. However, the right side is exciting and I'd like to emphasize this one. We are connected with more than 10 state authorities already, if I count well, and it has an increasing importance how reliable, how precise this data connection is, since it influences the image of Hungarian Tax Office and many more things. I'd like to run through quickly what these connections are. This is important to know because of the objectives. If we continue with the TMON pilot and if it will not operate as a pilot anymore, I am confident that it will become an element of the Hungarian Tax Office IT, and then it will be important to know what are the connections we would like to build it on. So we have offices for government-issued documents and company registration courts, here up and down. These are our one-stop systems. The essence of it is that tax numbers are requested from us online, so practically we must provide the tax number immediately, so here it is very important whether the connection works or not. This is so much lag that the customers stand there and wait for the Hungarian Tax Office system to provide a tax number, and if this doesn't work, it is obviously problematic. We are in connection with, I spelled it KNYVH here, this is the big office of the Interior Ministry which is now called KEKKH. In fact, this is the Population Registry Office. Naturally, we are in connection with them because if we want to issue a tax identification code, there is an immediate checking whether that private person exists or not. We receive from them the natural identifying data of the private person. You will be surprised, we are in direct connection with VPOP for certain cases, but what I would like to concentrate the whole presentation on and what we built TMON on, is a connection to OEP. This is also very important, because from January 1st, 2007 certain OEP tasks were transferred to Hungarian Tax Office. I wouldn't like to go into detail for the rest. We are connected to OMNF. This is the Labor Inspectorate. Obviously we have an online connection to KSH, so they request sometimes data about various taxable persons online and we provide it to them. By now we are connected to the Hungarian State Treasury as well. This is also a one-stop module, and then we have the Health Insurance Supervisory Authority as well, so I wanted to refer to the fact that the data communication layer is more and more important at Hungarian Tax Office. I have taken out here a layer of the data connection between Hungarian Tax Office and OEP. I think it doesn't say anything new. The one connection I would like to highlight is displayed here. Beyond the handling of acknowledgements given by MQS, we obviously receive formal and content acknowledgements from OEP as well. These will become part of this process. I displayed this because this was a disaster for us. At the tax authority, we've gone through several such disasters lately. To integrate the levy office, this started in 2007, and this is of course a reference to legislation. I myself feel sick if I see a paragraph mark, but the essence is that since January 1st, 2007, employers have to report to the tax authority changes in the employment legal relationship. This in itself wouldn't yet present a problem. The problem starts with the fact that this process has to be appropriately monitored by Hungarian tax office, and therefore, it is very important. It is maybe known that there is this red light, non-red light thing. These notions appear in the news here and there. Now, Hungarian tax office provides to the OEP database the information whether the given private person is covered by a legal relationship or not. I don't know whether you met the case, but somebody visits the doctor, and there, it starts with checking whether his TAJ health insurance number is valid, and whether the TAJ health insurance number is covered by a legal relationship, or not. This is unfortunately the legislation, and this data, this information, is provided by Hungarian tax office. Specifically this way, this is what I wanted to cover in this figure. We don't go through the entire process. The essence of it is that these specific data reports may arrive in different formats. Obviously we process these, and after processing, there is an immediate data transfer to OEP and ONMF. And the TMON process monitoring was specialized, was built for this immediate data transfer for this block. Why? Because it is important for us, and obviously for OEP as well, whether this information actually arrives immediately or not, because if we don't provide it in time, or don't provide it correctly, or it doesn't arrive there, then different anomalies can result from that. What kind of anomalies can arise? The customer is sent away by Hungarian tax office and OEP agents because OEP says that it is not covered by a legal relationship, but Hungarian tax office says that it has been already sent a week ago, just that it didn't arrive, etc. Quite a lot of problems can arise. From time to time, it makes it to the press. So, currently, we have specialized TMON for this part as a pilot, and I would like to highlight again that fired by these experiences, we would like to build it on further data connections, too. I tried to summarize here the goal of the TMON monitoring system, but I think we can skip it, because the previous presentation summarized with significantly more details what it is about. We can skip this too. It just demonstrates that it can be drawn in a more simple way. However, this is not drawn by me either. A colleague from T-Logic did it. Further, I would like to present through specifics what the TMON interface looks like relative to this process. This isn't unknown either. It contains only one specific process, the 1041. Maybe I haven't mentioned this 1041. This originates from the fact that this is the code of the data registration form through which the legal relationship is reported to us. Shandor has already mentioned from which parts the monitoring screen interface of TMON is composed. This is the process. This is the process step. Here we can see that individual reports represent a process, and here we can monitor when we have transferred it, when that particular process has started. Here, we can see that in our case the rooted is a barcode that identifies the data form. Here we can specifically see what steps we have built into this process. Namely, we monitor here, if we go through it, whether the message arrived to the OEP server. This is an MQS level logging. Then we see whether OEP has read it from the queue, because it happens that it arrives, and it is not read for 2-3 days or a week. This is still completely an MQS level thing, and then we check whether a formal, respectively a content acknowledgement arrived for it. So far, these are the steps that are built into the process. Obviously, the formal acknowledgement means that the XML message is checked, whether it can be handled, read, etc. then, this is interesting for us, because if they say it cannot be handled, then an immediate intervention is needed using TMON, because the ball is on our side. This cannot happen under normal circumstances, if the application has been thoroughly tested, but errors can always occur. The content acknowledgement is important, because the content of the content acknowledgement tells us whether they included in the registry the message sent by us or not. And I wouldn't go into the filtering possibilities. Particularly, there are many filtering possibilities. And just to mention, it is also important for us how much time passes between individual steps, because this is not checked in the application. The essence of the application is to process the received data form as quickly as possible, and to pass it to this block that transfers into OEP. Why is it important how much time passed? As I mentioned, we have quite a lot of disputes with OEP regarding the fact whether the message arrived or not, and whether they responded or not. Using this, I can exactly tell that they have read it from the MQSQ on the 14th, but they have sent the content acknowledgement only a week or 2 weeks later. Unfortunately, the result of this is that private person did not have a covered legal relationship in the OEP registry for 2 weeks. Filtering possibilities. I don't want to go into details here. Shandor has also mentioned it. The operations block is detailed here. I've already mentioned that currently we differentiate basically 4 kinds of steps in this process, and we monitor these. It has been said in the previous presentation too, how important it is what kind of statistics it can be created. We have come up with the most diverse statistics when this pilot started. I will not go into details now what those were, but just as an addition, these can be extended very flexibly. If we look at the structure of TMON, there is a database built on TMON. Based on this database, we can create the most diverse kinds of statistics even ourselves, without the contribution of T-logic, because whoever can write select statements can build such statistical reports. The ones we inserted now are just 1 or 2 examples. It is important for us how many messages are sent daily. It is important how many correct content acknowledgements we receive on a monthly basis. How many messages, processes there are, for which we didn't receive a content acknowledgement, and what is the time span of those. I'd like to mention here that these statistics, beyond being meaningful for developers, are meaningful for the tax professionals. The fact how this connection looks like is not negligible from an executive information perspective. It is even very important. And finally, a few thoughts about objectives. When did we start this pilot? Maybe 2 months ago. We have started it approximately 2 months ago, and currently, after a few weeks, we can say relative to this process, that is for this OEP legal relationship transfer, there is a startup version, a version 0, that we would like to put into production at the beginning of next year, to have a look at it there, how it works, with larger volumes. With this, I just wanted to refer to the fact that practically, if we know what we want to do, because that is important, then TMON can be built quasi as a second layer on a given application, on a given process, in a few weeks. Coming back to the objectives, reliability and operation, this is important for us, to know how reliable our connection is to the partner organizations displayed in the first figure, on the right side. And here I don't only refer to the fact whether the MQS server works or not, by the way that also results from this statistic here, because if I sent it and it didn't go through, then it is visible that there is some problem here, so we can draw this consequence from the statistical data. But obviously the objective of TMON is basically not monitoring the MQS server. There are other tools for this. But by connecting it with the business logic, I get a very good picture whether this process works reliably or not. Handling of individual errors, necessity of intervention. Shandor mentioned in his presentation what possibilities there are for sending messages from the TMON system, even in an interactive way, either to a user or to an application manager, that there is such an error in the process that needs immediate intervention. In our case, in a specific example, this is the case of the formal error. If I receive a formal acknowledgement that there is an error there, then it needs immediate intervention from my side, then there is some problem, but obviously, such messages can be built for other steps as well. And then, what I mentioned, what we would like to use it for beyond these functionalities, it's the executive information. So, IT is obviously a service provider department in Hungarian tax office as well. We can tell Hungarian tax office leaders that the data communication with OEP is such and such, and if there are problems occurring here, we can provide appropriate data information. By problems I mean that it is not surprising these are two separate ministries. OEP is the Ministry of Health, and we Hungarian tax office are the Ministry of Finance. So, frequently the dispute about operations goes to such high levels, and we are confident that using TMON, we can provide solid and up-to-date data on how Hungarian tax office operates this data connection. Thank you for your attention. I am confident that I could show you, based on a specific application, how we are using TMON, and how we would like to use it.